Hi, this is Cora Stack again. I just wanted to announce two papers that I've been working on for a long time, and they're very serious papers, and I think they would be of benefit to people interested in family law, and in particular in genuine family law, which brings genuine justice, or which affords genuine justice to all parties involved in family law disputes. So it's called Trauma Informed Family Law Reform, Housing Instability. Really talked about gendered poverty, talked about, and systemic neglect in post separation Ireland, and I also have brought in, the statistics from other countries, as I always do, to do a sort of an international comparison. And it's no surprise that where there's no arbitration, the systems are very similar, or the patterns are very similar in terms of the outcomes, particularly for vulnerable parties, women and children. So that's it. That's up on academia.edu, and then a paper that I've been working on again for a long time, which I just mentioned there earlier, but of course it was a snippet of it, and again it's a really long paper for the people following me who are reading my work on the Protective Disclosures Act. The paper, the long paper, which is very comprehensive. So I only touched on elements of it, but I'm looking at this now from the point of view of narcissistic patterns and sociopathic patterns. So this would be something that a lot of people wouldn't be familiar with. But I have studied, the cluster B pathologies and the dark tribe for many years. So I've engaged in a lot of scholarship. So I can spot them in procedures. I can spot these kind of things, and it's disturbing really to spot these patterns in the current act. The procedures, the delays, like the embedded silent treatment delays, the tactics, and so on, the burden shifting. That's kind of projection in narcissism. So doing a mapping between narcissistic patterns and the actual act and the implementation is deeply troubling, because what it's highlighting is elements of coercive control in the act and in the implementation. So that's something that wasn't in the previous version of the act. There was obviously serious trouble with the implementation, but not in the design of the act itself. So that's an angle that I have I've brought in here, which I haven't heard anybody else talk about. So that's while I don't mention, I mention coercive control, but really what I'm talking about is narcissistic abuse. Might be a better word, legally, I suppose, but or psychologically. So I think we have a better understanding maybe of what coercive, and of course it's institutional coercive control, we're talking about here when we're talking about in an act. So the paper is called Designed to Protect Institutions, Burden Reversal, Institutional Shielding, and the Erosion of Whistleblower Rights under Ireland's Diluted Protective Disclosures Framework. So I'm bringing in, in a way, narcissistic patterns are currently embedded in both the family law and in the current Protective Disclosures Act. So, but they're kind of more hidden, I suppose. They're more evident in high conflict disputes, really, in the family law, but of course the protective disclosures, I suppose, is another kind of high conflict situation. Perhaps we don't see it like that, but that's really what's come out of the new act. It's a very high conflict. It will result in a lot of high conflict because of all the narcissistic patterns and or tactics or design in the act. So there's gaslighting, if you like, in the act. So you do get this in a lot of procedures now. And because it's a lot of the time it's written by solicitors, so there's this element of institutional shielding in a lot of oversight procedures, and it's very unfortunate